Welcome to 50/50 Books, the book review podcast where the books are split in two, and figuring out just what is going on is always a toss-up. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jonathan. This episode we're reading How to Stop Time by Matt Haig, up to but not including the chapter called Hackney Outside London 1599, and the starting words of that chapter are gossip, gossip lived, since I think that title gets used more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So we've read Matt Haig before, a different book, different topics, but maybe not 100% in its own category. How are you feeling about this, having read some Matt Haig before?
I definitely feel the Matt Haig energy while I'm reading this. I feel like we're exploring some similar topics, similar themes.
Mm-hmm.
So far, I'm not in it yet, I guess.
Yeah, I think I feel similarly so far. Yeah, the vibe is different, but the style is different, I guess, right? Like the Midnight Library, I feel like had a very fleshed out environmental system, right? In that it was kind of almost alternate dimension-y, whereas this one is very much historical fiction. It's in the real world. And so that definitely feels different. Maybe I just haven't gotten on board with this character 100%, which maybe I'll talk about a little bit throughout. And that's holding me back. I will say, though, I still enjoy reading that Matt Haig delivery. Like, I don't know, just something more emotional. And I feel like raw feels maybe too intense a word, but just he's willing to explore a lot of that mental strife that his characters are going through, which I'm still into.
Yeah, I feel like the lasting effects of like grief and love in connection to that is something he does very well.
Exactly.
He like understands it, I feel like.
Yeah.
I will say style-wise, I am appreciating, they're not really flashbacks, they kind of are, but like us getting them makes sense with what Tom is thinking about, so they feel very purposeful.
Yeah, each time it happens is to advance the story. It's not just to get more information. I agree.
Yeah, and I feel like it also kind of taps into a little bit of like PTSD. Like I feel like Tom is remembering these things with us, like as he's explaining them, because he's writing this story. Like there's a meta aspect to this where he's writing this story for us, I suppose, or for something.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reliving part of it feels like it's done right so far.
Yeah, that's a good point that maybe I hadn't appreciated enough, because they show him around things that he's experienced in the past or places he's been in the past and getting these headaches, having these sort of physical responses to it. And then I at least felt like that wasn't addressed again. Like, I guess he has a headache now and then he mentions it to Camille. But I was like, oh, like, is this a thing he's actually going through? Is this a thing that is affecting his life significantly, these memories? Or was that just kind of mentioned at the beginning to set the scene of who he is? But I think if we think about each one of these as him kind of going through that, reliving it, or just like calling back on it as he experiences his modern day life, like that kind of fills in the gap.
Yeah, that's the impression I'm getting from reading it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, should we get into it?
Yeah, I feel like we were into it.
Yeah, it's fair. I guess we already started to get into content. I mentioned a difference in kind of the environmental setup between Midnight Library and this one. I think the sort of environmental factor that the author has introduced here is the disease that the main character Tom has, anageria, where he is living for a very long time. Not immortal, but just living an extremely long time. He pretty much lays it all out right at the beginning. I think in other books that have a quip like this, you would spend some time like figuring out, how does this system work? Like, what's going on? You know, what are the details? And there's none of that here. I feel like it was all just laid out right at the beginning, which I kind of appreciated. So that way I didn't spend the rest of the book being like, I wonder how this thing works. And like, what are the things I don't know about it? Like, it's all just out there for you. And it kind of lets you focus on the other parts of the book that are more important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I kind of liked that stronger opening. It does immediately bring up the question of like, okay, if this is not a question of the book, like what will the questions of the book be?
Yeah, I can see some people maybe being unsatisfied with that, right? Because I think the questions happening are like the emotional questions,
right?
Which some people aren't going to care about as much. Like it's the difference between a plot-driven book and like a character-driven book, right?
Yeah, and I think in some ways it does. I want there to be more of a plot like driven thing sometimes. I'm just I think I've expressed this in the past that that's just more of what I prefer, but I think because he does this right at the beginning, I understand off the bat to put those expectations aside, you know?
Yeah. And to be fair, there are some things like trying to find his daughter, I think, is very plot heavy, depending on what he does with it, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some other things in the environmental setting part of this book is that it's definitely a historical fiction, without a doubt. Because we have all these flashbacks to the distant past. I think it felt kind of clever to me. Like, I think it shouldn't feel clever. It's like, okay, he lives for a long time. Of course, we're going to interact with people in the past. Maybe it felt a little too on the nose when we started interacting with William Shakespeare himself. But like otherwise, I've been like, okay, I kind of enjoy this exploration of the past in England for this character.
Yeah, I think bringing in like a real person is always kind of dangerous with historical fiction.
For sure.
Some people take that risk way more than others. I think this one's kind of fine.
I did think it was an interesting characterization of Shakespeare. I think I maybe know so little about what he was actually like, but like this presentation of him being like, yeah, I kind of just do this all for the money, and also like I'm gonna help a brother out. Like you need me, so I'm gonna step in. Like I don't know, it was a weird guy in general. Like even if it wasn't Shakespeare, he'd be an unusual character.
Yeah, considering I'm a lit major who also took a class specifically on Shakespeare, I could not tell you the first thing about the guy. Like his whole thing about like I actually hate writing. It's just kind of like what makes me money. Yeah, I'm like honestly, I can respect that. Even if it's not like lore accurate, I'm kind of like, who cares?
That's part of what I thought was bold to like put in his mouth, you know?
I don't know. Maybe I just trust Matt Haig too much. I feel like it's either accurate to Shakespeare or it's very intentional. I think like it's an important point in that like just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it, right?
True.
I don't know if we've ever read a book that mentioned that, but it's something I think about quite a lot. Like just because you have the talent for something doesn't mean you have to pursue it, but sometimes you feel like you owe the world that.
I can certainly relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like a general tie-in to like the albatrosses as a group of like just because you have the genes and you have the longevity, it doesn't mean you owe the world something. Like it's maybe a kinder way of looking at the world when compared to how like Hendrik looks at it of like we're gonna kill people. You know what I mean? He's like he takes it a little too far in the we don't owe people anything. Shakespeare is kind of like maybe the beginning of finding that balance of you don't owe the world, but also you shouldn't be a piece of garbage.
Yeah, there's an interesting balance there, right? Like they are kind of after the same thing in a way, right? Like Shakespeare saying, well, I do this to make me and my buddies some money, which of course then allows him to live the life he wants to live otherwise. And I think there's something to Hendrik effectively paying the costs so that way he can live the life he wants to live. And just like very different considerations of what costs are allowed to include, you know?
Right, yeah.
My interpretation of the Albatross Society is very much mafia-like, right? Especially because of the killing aspect of effectively there's hits out on people, right? Like seems like you do your 8 years of regular life and then you pay back your protection from Hendrik and the society via taking somebody out, which is a wild payback. So kind of that violent nature made me think of the mafia, and especially having this like figurehead guy, like Godfather-y, like I'm in charge, and like having, I don't even know how to describe it. Like there's just like a certain tone to his conversations, right? The kind of no way out type of thing where I don't think he really takes no for an answer, and like didn't really even respond at first to Tom being like, I kind of want out of this situation, right? It's very much like all roads lead back to you're going to be in this mafia group and you're going to follow my rules.
Yeah, I was getting like cult vibes, but I do think mafia is more accurate. Just like that idea of like a promised better life.
There's also like an empty promise of finding his daughter.
I mean, yeah, Hendrik is kind of weird about that at the beginning, so I don't know what he knows, but...
Right. It does seem like he knows something. But, like, if he does, it would make sense for him to know something and not say anything because then he might lose Tom.
For sure.
a question I wrote down is Hendrik trustworthy? And I think that's just like a leading question to him not being trustworthy because of this kind of thing where he has kind of some evidence behind him for why they should be doing this and like why he's behaving this way, both like based in the past and the present, where the present concern is like if the scientists find out about us, like we're all just going to become lab rats basically. Like they're going to want to study us all and we're not going to have freedom, and that could be really bad, which I could see that being a valid concern. And especially when you're living lives as long as they have, they're really not that far away from like some especially horrible scientific testing on humans. So, so I could see that concern. But then on the other hand, like his behavior and yeah, like the weirdness about Marion, like I could also just see him using that fear, whether valid or not, to manipulate people and maintain power, right? So that's what takes away the trust.
He's such a hedonist that like I don't think he's like forgotten how to care about people, I guess.
I mean, even by active choice. I know he's talking about romantic love mostly when he says this, but he says not to love people. Look at the way he treats even the people in his own organization. Like, I think they are pawns to him, even if those are the people he's purporting to want to save.
He sees all the albatrosses as kind of like deities, but I think within the hierarchy, he's like the Zeus of the deities. Like, exactly. He's ruling over them. Mm-hmm. Which is also just a bad mindset to think you're above human. Like, you have longevity, but you're not actually immortal.
Right. I mean, you can be killed the same way anyone else can be killed in the way you're killing other people, right?
Right. And based on what we know and like how Tom is experiencing things, living that long doesn't actually seem that great.
Right. Well, it's funny because, yeah, very early in the book, that when they're introducing this, my first thought was, admittedly on the dark side of like, I'm shocked people actually live that full life though, right? Because after you've lived the length of a single lifetime and all the people you know are dead, at least all the people you knew when you were younger are dead, like what keeps you going? Like at a certain point when you live long enough, it becomes an active choice. But he has that explanation that when his mom was dying, or when Rose was dying, actually, I think it was when his mom was dying, that she was like, no, you have to live. Like, you have to live for me. Like, you can't choose to die. And like, that is the main reason he's alive. But like all these other people who are still alive for a long time have to have reasons too.
Yeah, Tom is an interesting case because it's not like the society is keeping him alive, right? It's the mayflies, right? It's the regular humans that are making him find a purpose. His mother being like, you have to live, and then Rose being like, you have to find our daughter. Like, those are the people that Hendrik is like, they could die, and I would not care. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think Hendrik would be happy for Tom to not be thinking about this, given the whole 8-year cycle thing, too.
Yeah.
I think part of this is this interest in people is what leads him to decide to be a teacher as his angle for dealing with his past self, right? He specifically decides to become a history teacher, which I think is more to handle the, PTSD and processing of the past thing. But there's something, I don't remember exactly what he says, but there's something along the lines of this would be a good way to like use my experience, like to teach history, basically, since I've been alive for a while and like I'm going to be revisiting my past, which I think makes some sense. I think how do I want to talk about this? I think it makes a lot of sense for the instinct to be like, oh, like if I'm a teacher, then like I will be doing a good thing with it. However, based on the observation so far, I don't think Tom is an especially great teacher. He seems to be struggling with getting through to his kids a bit.
Yeah, this is actually interesting because this book is published, I think, 2017 or something, right? So I think it's like if he was like a normal age, you would feel the generational divide, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it is especially noticeable.
Right.
Because you have like kids on their phones and like they're not paying attention. It's like that's something, I mean, you were a teacher, you probably know.
I have thoughts, yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine if Haig had decided to write this in like this year, it would probably be even worse because of the mess of AI and all of that bullshit.
Oh yeah. I like, and I give credit to anyone who decides to put themselves in front of a classroom. Yeah, like as someone who did it themselves. And anyone's first year teaching is generally bad. Like, and this is true not just for people like me who like didn't go to school to teach, but like including people who actually like did some student teaching and stuff. There's just nothing like being a first year teacher. Like, it is just quite a hard hit transition from whatever you were doing before. And I think it's just hard to be fully prepared for that. In some ways, I don't think Tom is struggling with all of the things that usually come with that. Like, he's mostly just struggling with, like, he's not struggling with the baseline. Like, I think most first year teachers struggle with, like, being baseline good. He's, I think, lucky enough that he has this, like, structured curriculum and, like, knows what he's supposed to be teaching about. He's just struggling more on the execution side, which is, like, I think it's coming from a lack of any effort in planning, it seems like he's just kind of lecturing the kids. And I think that can come from the generational divide thing, right? He's thinking, well, like, what is school but, like, a teacher lecturing in front of a classroom? Like, I think that is kind of an old school way to think of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't seem to adjust along the way is maybe the issue I'm seeing. Yeah, it's just, all around, teaching is a tough job. Yes, I certainly had to deal with this and more when it comes to, like, kids on their phones, and the advent of TikTok was high and mighty when I was teaching. So it's just kids dancing in the hallway in front of their phone being like, what are you doing? Like, there's just so many things that are more interesting than a classroom these days, which I definitely get, because adults did that to them by creating this stuff. But I would like to see a little bit more from Tom if he feels like this is, like, I don't want to feel like Tom is using the kids to go through his shit, you know? Like, I want it to be hand in hand. Like, Tom is processing and he's having a positive effect on the kids he's teaching.
Yeah, I definitely think he's doing what you're speaking of right now, right? Like, using it as a way to force closure. He says that pretty clearly, I think, in the book. I think if the goal is to live in the now, then I think we'll see him progress not only in his relationships, which are kind of slow going right now, but also in his teaching. So yeah, I think him being bad right now is hopefully the point.
Yeah, he kind of makes, I mean, maybe an inappropriate joke, but he makes a joke that maybe it warms the kids up to him of, like, oh, like, sorry, I get these headaches. Like, I did a lot of drugs when I was a kid, you know, like, he has this whole moment in the bathroom and comes back and says that. And, like, while a ridiculous comment, I think it does show that he's gaining some comfort and, like, understanding of the situation he is. Like, he is becoming more now where he's like, no, like, I just need to, like, stop, like, overstructuring this and, like, be myself in front of this class.
Yeah. To be fair, him also telling Anton, like, I've killed someone was also crazy.
100%. Yeah, I have thoughts on Anton too, because the direction that that's going in concerns me a little bit. And maybe, again, as having been a teacher and, like, having a lot of yellow flags about effectively, like, savior stories, right? Like, the Freedom Riders, Stand and Deliver, like, those types of things, which, like, are maybe good feel-good movies, but, like, can perpetuate the wrong message of, like, effectively someone, like, magical coming in and, like, transforming the inner city youth, right? Which is just not how things generally work. Those are true stories, so I don't want to say how they never work, but, like, how they generally don't go that way, right? And so I am hoping that this Anton bit stays a little bit grounded. And so far it has. Like, he's had these extra conversations with Anton. He's kind of singled him out a couple of times. And I think Anton has skepticism about all that. And, like, you know, he's like, all right, good speech teacher, you know, like, there's Tom is trying to do a thing he's still not able to do, right? He's not able to land in that, like, powerful way with the kids yet, because he hasn't gotten that much of a relationship like that's earned with time. So that makes sense. So I guess I'm just curious where this is going to go in the rest of the book, and if this is going to be, like, a savior complex type thing.
Yeah, I think, like, maybe the point is, like, it's good. This is going to sound so strange. It's good for older generations to impart their wisdom. Like, that's not a bad thing, right? Like, Tom has lived a long time. He should impart things onto the youth. Does that make sense? Is that a crazy thing to say?
No, I think that's a very valid thing to say. I think that's how society is able to advance, at least in some degree. What was bothering me about this is knowing that he has a very long life. And as far as we know, this man is not trained at all to be a teacher, right?
Yes.
Like, he's not gone to school. Like, there's not been an alternate route teaching certification, right? There's nothing. And so while I think the idea is good of, you know, I've been around for a long time, I'm going to be around for a long time. Being a teacher gives me the opportunity to do something with that unique length of life and life experience as a result. It'd be nice to see a little bit more advanced planning and effort, though, you know, to be like, I'm going to figure out how to do that well and not learn on the job. On the other hand, like, this school probably wouldn't have a history teacher if he didn't show up. So it's like, I'd rather there be a teacher in front of this classroom than not.
Mm-hmm.
But I struggle to balance it just with the long life he has, with the fact that he has the opportunity to study up.
Yeah, I guess the issue though is like you only get to do something for 8 years. So why would you study anything?
Yeah, but I think this is also the advantage of the society, right? Like, it sounds like Hendrik is the one who can make this happen, right? He's the one who can set you up with fake references, so that way when you show up without any qualifications, you can go ahead and just do the job anyway. But that's like where I maybe take some of the issue, where it's like, no, you do kind of have some privilege here that I think is being not used correctly. um yeah, and like, sure, it's 8 years, but like, did it have to be this lifetime, right? Like, this 8 years, could you have prepared for a future 8 years with this 8 years where you actually do that?
Yeah, I guess you're not thinking about time that far in advance. And also the albatrosses in general, like we see with Tom earlier, like they are selfish, right? Like they don't think they owe the world anything, so thinking ahead isn't really something they do.
Yeah, this is certainly a step up from whatever else was happening, right? Like, the fact that he's made any decision to do something that gives back is worth some credit for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand your point, but yeah, I think it's just like a fault in being so separate from a normal human.
Yeah. Well, I'll get off the teaching soapbox, I think, but it definitely just rubbed me the wrong way that he decided to go this route.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a selfish angle, at least at first, but I think between the kids and Camille, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Camille, who we haven't really seen a lot of, but seems to be, I don't know if, like, I put vague romantic interest as my thought, because that isn't even 100% clear, but obviously she is of some interest to him. He is of interest to her because she recognizes him in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But is the romance the direction that this is going? And I don't know. I feel like I want it to go that way, kind of, but it's just not. There's not much there.
Yeah, it's confusing. I remember thinking at first, like, is Camille going to end up being Marion, his daughter?
I sure
Technically,
hope not.
Marion is like, I know. It's not possible now, but before I reread the synopsis, I was like, is that what's going to happen? Because she does recognize him, right? And it's very strange that she does. Now my thought is maybe, I mean, Occam's razor, she just saw him somewhere and recognizes him.
Mhm.
That's fine, whatever. But it's also possible Camille doesn't know Tom, but maybe she knows Marion.
It would make a lot of sense, because it would like close that line out.
Yeah, like we need to tie in Marion somehow, right? And if Marion like knows who her father is, knows she's partially French, maybe she ended up with Camille hanging out, whatever. And then because they're related, their similarities are causing Camille to kind of lose her mind.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. And I think that seems quite possible with the setup.
Mm-hmm.
The other thought I had about Camille is maybe if she also has the anageria disease, and so like would have recognized him from something distantly in the past if they've both been around for a while. And she's like unable to remember because it's just been super long, you know? The thing that's holding me back from that is that I think if she did have this disease, she would be like more secretive on her recognition. She wouldn't just like put it out there for like where other people could hear it. I think she would hold that back until she was certain, and then could like have a closed door conversation about it. At least that seems like the more likely way that would be done. So that's holding me back. But that was at least my first thought. It was like, oh no, she has this too, and it's just been like several hundred years.
I don't think Hendrik would ever allow Tom to go to this school then.
I think the other reason why I think it could work is because I don't think, if this is the case, I don't think she's part of the society.
I see.
Like maybe she has her own system figured out. I also like overall have a theory that there's some alternate group or anti-Albatross group that we just don't know about yet in this book. So I didn't really pin her for that, but maybe that could be part of it too, is like she actually does, similar to the Albatross Society, like their structure, like they don't stay anywhere too long, but like she's managing her own life a little bit as opposed to a group.
That could be interesting. this book probably won't tap into this, but there could be something about like the way a man creates a society to protect a group and the way a woman would create a society to protect a group.
Right.
I don't know. If we're talking
That could
about
be
like
interesting if that were the case.
societies, yeah. I just think it could be interesting from like the witch angle, right? Like the fact that women were the ones that were killed basically because they were seen as witches.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a society that existed before the albatrosses.
Right, especially given that it's relatively new. That's a good point too. Yeah, part of why I think this is because of the Marion character that we don't know much about. It's been a several hundred-year search for her at this point, which almost gives me the vibe of trying to stay hidden, right? Not wanting to be found. So I almost wonder if part of the reason for her not being found is that she is part of some sort of anti-Albatross Society. Like she's aware of the Albatross Society. Maybe she's even like there was a recruitment attempt or something like that, which is then why Hendrik would know anything about her. And because she doesn't want anything to do with it, she doesn't agree with them. Maybe because she's got her own society, right? Whether she's leading it or not. That's why she's staying hidden, and especially if Tom is part of the Albatross Society, she's not going to want to make that connection. She's going to see him as the enemy, or at least as other, or potentially unsympathetic to her cause.
Right, and then Hendrik would be concerned about the society, but then also knows that if Tom ever finds out, he will leave for sure.
Right, yeah, because now there's an other side to join.
Right.
Yeah, because otherwise I just don't think it's an accident that she's like she must know her father's still alive, right? Or at least assume, because actually, does she know that Tom had it too? I would think so.
I think so, because I think Rose mentions she sent Marion off because of the condition. So I'm assuming Rose explained the condition. Right. Which probably also would be a reason why Marion might not be upset at Tom for leaving, because it seems like Tom and Rose like were together, but then also were separated for many, many years, right?
Yeah, because it seems like that last scene is him kind of coming back.
Yeah. So I don't think Marion is staying away from Tom if she knows about him at all in regard because of him leaving her as a child.
Interpersonal reasons, yeah.
Yeah. I also just don't think the Albatross Society is like the best way to do this, right? Like clearly it's the wrong way to live, even if it promises protection. So yeah, I guess the decision of the book is like, do we just dismantle the society and have nothing, or is there a better way?
Yeah, it's in a sense it's like government, right? It's like we like this government we have, and if not, how do we overthrow it? You know, I think that could very much be the angle here,
or just religion in general.
Like you're thinking from like the culty angle,
not just from I mean, yes, but like just like even just like the normal finding religion to better your life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you accidentally pick the wrong thing,
right.
And it could be a cult, or it just could not be a good fit. And then sometimes you pick something that actually clicks with you, right? And like makes your life better.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's just like ideologies, right? Whether, either way, political or religious, right? Like what ideologies do you follow or ascribe yourself to, and what do you do if it does or doesn't work?
Yeah.
I think that's all I have on Marion, but it'll be interesting to see. I hope it goes that way, just because I think, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, like it'd be nice to have a little bit more of like a drive in this plot. Like I think that could be a really interesting way to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we want to solidify some other theories or hopes for the second half?
Yeah, I feel like my only big theory is like the Camille and Marion might know each other angle. Whether that means Camille is, has the condition, part of the society, I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's all I really got.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, for me, I just went through my biggest one. I'm just thinking Marion is a part of some alternate society, so that's the one I'll probably commit myself most to.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of secondary one here, if I'm thinking about like how might this book end, I think Tom is going to try to find a way to leave the society, maybe by joining his daughter. He's going to try to leave the society, and assuming that this is a romance happening with Camille, I think that's going to be a driver. Tom's a lover for sure, so I think he may fall for her and be like, no, I can't like end this in 8 years. Like I need this to like be on my terms, even if it has to end at some point, even if I have to leave, even if I'm going to get noticed and have to relocate myself and Camille. Like, I will want to be able to make this decision for myself. And sort of a tertiary theory because of that is maybe he's going to kill Hendrik to make that happen. So we know he's killed before. He's mentioned killing before, on assignment from Hendrik. I can imagine if he thought if I could kill one more time and know I would never have to do it again, maybe he would do it to kill Hendrik.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think it would fit, if only because Hendrik is so... He's like so ready to deify himself and the other albatrosses, so I think a probable end to that kind of character is to kill him and be like, actually, you're just as human as anybody else.
Right. Especially if we think about this as like a government overthrowing, right? That happens sometimes. I mean, it's not always the most successful, but for something like this, I think it would be.
Yeah. And it does seem the most realistic. Like, how else do you solve this problem of this society that could kill you? And more importantly, the people you care about.
Exactly. I mean, you're right. He has got a lot of power behind him, and he's like on a mission to recruit every last one of them. So yeah, I think it would possibly have to be the solution. I mean, whether or not he kills him, someone might have to.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to get the return of Oh My?
Right. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about this. I feel like there's like a lot of things that are lightly touched in this book. Oh My gets a couple of mentions. I think, why would he be mentioned if not? I mean, the only alternative is we hear that he died, I think. But I think there's a good chance we see him again. Maybe connected to, again, alternate society that I'm theorizing about.
Yeah, Hendrik mentioning him made me very nervous. I'm like, why are you looking for him so intensely?
Yeah. No, I think we've got to see him.
Yeah. I mean, the possibility is that Marion ends up finding Oh My and is like, mentions Tom, and then Oh My kind of, takes her in.
Yeah. The thing that will potentially bother me if this does go that route, and kind of the route we're talking about in general, is just not knowing for so long that something is stewing.
Mm-hmm.
Like having the only hint being Hendrik being a little bit weird about the mentions of Marion. Like, we couldn't get one more thing to like get us going,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say is I kind of just mentioned this, that I feel the story spread a little thin right now. Like I have trouble understanding what and if there is a main point that the story is going for. Like there is some thread about mortality with the long life. There's this stuff about his missing daughter that doesn't get a lot of attention. There's potentially romance with Camille, but I don't know. Like we went so much of this not talking about his relationship with Rose, even though it is like a significant part of the book, because at least in my opinion, it feels like that's done, right? Like we're getting context, we're getting information, and it does drive his thoughts and emotions, right? Like that part is explained of him re-exploring, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting that as like the main point of the book is his relationship with Rose. And so I think there's just like a lot of bits, and I want to see something get elevated in the second half.
Right. Yeah, I think the Rose thing intentionally feels kind of closed off, because I think it's something he wants to think is done. Like he says to Agnes and Hendrik, like, I will never love somebody again. Like he seems very sure in that. And then him being a teacher kind of forcing himself to work through all these things and find closure. I think we'll see him be more emotional about it, especially if he ends up falling in love again.
Right.
Main threads of this book, obviously the romantic love is something we'll probably get because of the synopsis and like all of that. But I think just like humans are social creatures. They shouldn't be alone. And they're not fucking birds, right? Like they're not an albatross. They're not a god. Yeah. They're just people.
Yeah. I think this book is the book version of Believe by Cher.
Yeah, probably.
It's life after love, right?
Yeah, and I think we're gonna get all kinds of love, especially if, I mean, Marion is like a given to come back, I think, but if we do get like an Oh My coming back, then it's like, you thought you were alone, and for some odd reason, the Society of the Albatross is very solitary. Like, I don't know why none of these people are like falling in love with each other and like living together. Like, why are we doing that?
I mean, I'm sure that's built in, right? Like keeping them separated. That keeps control in Hendrik's hands.
Yeah, you're less likely to be found out if it's just you on your own, like that kind of nonsense, right?
Yeah.
But I think the point of like Tom is like, yeah, he's connecting to Camille, but then also he has these other connections with Marion and possibly Omai. Like he has not just like the human mayfly life, like he has an albatross long living life. But for some odd reason, he just hasn't tapped into that. I don't know. Like none of them have. I don't know why.
I could see this playing out too with the teacher storyline, right? Or like, I think, yeah, we're talking about different types of love, like the love a teacher has for their students, right? And he's building this over time, the relationships he's building with Anton, but also the other students in his class that he's getting to know better. Like, I think you're right that there's just a lot of different, yeah, flavors of love that are getting explored.
Yeah, because I think it's like that. That's the stuff that really like fills up your soul.
Exactly.
Like I think love and music are like paired up together as like the only things that really make you feel alive. And I think that's because music is so emotional.
Yeah, he says it when he's like talking about it at the beginning in the interview of like, I can't even put words to it.
And that's how people talk about love all the time, right? Like it's not something that you can put into words very clearly. So
yeah, I do like the integration of music into this book, and that is like what leads to the title of the book of like how do you stop time. I think Rose says something like that, and effectively he's like, well, like by manipulating by playing music, playing this lute, like I can manipulate time. I can like, you know, experience longer, shorter, you know, faster, whatever. So I kind of like that idea. I hope the music part gets fleshed out more in the emotional sense, since we've definitely gotten some storyline about it, right? Like that's, you know, the whole Shakespeare playing in the Globe, all that. But yeah, I'd be curious to see how that relates to his modern life.
yeah, because I don't think he plays right now, but I think Anton plays the piano, right? So I imagine Tom like becoming present again will have to also partially do with him playing music again.
That'd be fun. That'd be nice to see.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all I have.
Yeah, pretty simple to the point book, I guess. I mean, there's depth of feeling, but like to your point, this certainly does not seem very plot heavy.
Yeah.
At least right now. We'll see what happens in the second half, I guess.
We shall see.
If you have your own thoughts and theories about how to stop time, there are comments. And all of our socials are in the description. I kind of fucked that up, but you get the point. I don't know.
Yep. And if you could throw us a like, follow wherever you're listening to this episode, 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. And we appreciate you listening.
Yes, thank you for listening.